Here at Unthinkable, we love unthinkable devices, and they don't get any more unthinkable than the TV show Fringe. At the MCM Expo in London, I was lucky enough to catch up with Walter Bishop himself, John Noble. Here's what he had to say in the first of a two-part special.
The root material's there. The root material was there from the beginning. I don't know. I understand Walter Bishop. I mean, I understand.
Does that worry you?
What have I walked into? This is a hostile. This is certainly hostile. Oh Lord! I understand his emotions. I understand his, the sense of loss and the sensitivity of the man, and also the swings. Because whether you want to agree with it or not, we all do them. We all have swings, and so it's not so hard. The incredible sense of loss in the man, and the damage, and as his memory comes back, then what he remembers is horrific. What he's done, and so he has this overload of shame and guilt. But at the same time, he still is excited to be back in life. And those are those shifts that you see all the time. And when he's focused on something, he's totally focused. He forgets everything. Which is why he could be in the middle of an autopsy and he could be eating a lolly and he's happy, so happy, And nothing else enters his mind. He's gross when he's like that, really. But that's what he does. He's totally focused on whatever he does. I do understand the character. I'm not a genius, but from what I've read about the men and women, and there's not that many to read about, frankly. Their social skills ain't great. They can't communicate with people. That group of, if you've got an IQ of 190, what do you talk about to people? So I think that was a lot of the research I did, and also a lot of the research on the mental illness was pretty specific because I wanted to make sure I didn't make light of it. So I did a lot of work to find out what that was, and what drugs he would have been on, and how they would have affected him, as he came off them. That was all part of the process. It was a good thing to do as an actor because when you're doing your preparation, you do your sort of base preparation on a character, the history, whatever you want to call it. We all do. So it was funny going back 25 years. All I had to do was take off layers. It's very interesting. I had to very specifically take off layers of experience from the old man and take off the mental instability and give him back a vocal and a physical rhythm that was 25 years younger. So he spoke with more energy, and when he ran like a young man, those sorts of things. But he was still essentially the same guy. And the other fella was like, if something tragic's happened in your life, you can do what Walter did, which is cross the universe, take a son, create all this terrible shame and ruin their lives, frankly. Or you can be the angered father on the other side who says, well, fuck you, I'll get you. And that brings you straight up and turns you into an incredibly dangerous man. I can understand him too. If someone stole my son, I'd be in the same boat. So that's Walternut. So Walternut is a warrior. He looks taller, he looks slimmer, he looks sharper because that's what he is. He hasn't got the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's a dangerous man. With that relationship, we've grown that. That's happened between us because we've found a great commonality, and so I've been able to shift and include, and the writers have accepted that. So we finish up having this really beautiful. I wanted to go Friday sort of a radar character, but it's become more than that now. But it's become more than that for all the characters because there's these links of affection and pendency that exist between all of them, and it's kind of fascinating to see how that's grown. Yeah, he catches himself doing stuff. And he feels it so deeply. He feels it so deeply when he feels it. His emotions. Most of us. I was thinking actually the difference. I was trying to explain to my wife the other day. I said, "What's that thing that the Spanish use full of lollies and it's a piñata, and it's all stitched up tight?" I said, "Walternut is like a piñata. He's tight. Nothing's coming out. Walter is like one that's sort of been burst a bit, and things have flopped out, and some of the lollies are gone, and he's just a floppy old pinata. And it's sort of like the difference made sense, that term. This guy's really stitched up, and the other one is unravelled. Well, that's what they like, these two men. This I can't answer specifically because I don't know. It's absolutely evident that as we've left Olivia on the other side, that we have to go and get her. There's no doubt about that. So I believe that certainly the first third of season 3 at least will be spent, a considerable amount of time will be spent in the alternate universe. And having created these wonderful other characters for Olivia and for Walter and for Broyles and for Astrid, I mean, it would be a terrible shame not to go back there. But I think certainly at least 6 episodes will be in that balance. And the stakes are huge. I mean, if your leading lady is on the other side, and they've got to know, don't they? Because they'll see the tattoo or something, they'll know. I think so. I can't promise you that, but I think there's a whole series on that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And believe me, that's been talked about. You know, there's an amazing opportunity here that these people that write these shows are truly gifted. Their imaginations astound me. And so they've created a situation where instead of closing down their options, which happens with a lot of television shows, you know, and you run out of stories, they keep opening up like anything is possible with these people. And their imaginations will take them anywhere. Certainly, Alternate Universes is a show of its own. I think that if we have legs, and network television particularly, you never know. You know, you live on your wits. But if we have legs, we'll make the same decision as Lost ultimately made, to say, this will not run beyond this time. It will only run, say, 6 seasons. So let me use that figure. That will be definite. There'll be no extension, because that way all of the strings can be brought in, tied up. We know what happened with Lost, how it sort of got wandered off a bit, and then the writers said, we've got to finish this somewhere, and they did. I reckon that there are 6 seasons, but even if they told us you're finishing this year, that would give us enough time. If they dropped the axe like that, well, what can you do? But if they give us enough time, you know, we can resolve a lot of stuff, and we'll do so, because we care enough about it, and we care enough about, you know, the interest around the globe in Fringe is massive, you know, and people that understand and care about these links that we create. So it would be, I would certainly be very disappointed and surprised if we didn't resolve them. The last 2 episodes are in fact one story, really best shown as a 2-hour. In fact, in Mexico they're showing it as a 2-hour. How about that? On the 1st of June. It answers most of the question. We went back to the Peter episode. We said Peter was taken from the other side. We realise now that Olivia knows what's going on. Peter knows that Olivia's going on. Peter has gone away and he spat the dummy and said, I don't want to play anymore. So this all has to be resolved. We bring Walter in at the end of the 3rd to last, I think you've seen that, where he says, come with me, my son. We have to resolve these things. So we find a way to go and rescue Peter. We've got to go over to the other side and rescue Peter. So we take the use of some of the characters we've used during the course of the season, and then we find a way to cross over. There we meet our doubles, including dead Charlie, who's not dead on that side, you know, which is really cool. And then the battle ensues between these 2 sides, because Walter wants revenge and he wants to. At the end of it, there's a crossover, and our Olivia has been captured and they've sent across a substitute. That's the final capture. It's huge. There's a lot happens. What is really interesting, I think, is that it's Walter, Leonard Nimoy's final performance, and I was so privileged to have that with him. I mean, seriously privileged to do that and to do such a lot of the work in it with him, and to do his final scene with him. And he was just wonderful. So all of that sort of stuff in there is really marvellous, frankly.